Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to the Thursday, November 18th, Audit and Finance Standing Committee meeting. And it has been a beautiful day. I saw 6 degrees when I got in my car. I couldn't believe it. Only thing I can say, God is good, and whoever your high power is. But today has been a beautiful, beautiful day. So we're going to get moving here, and we're going to start. And I'm going to ask our Majority Counsel, Rebecca Kennedy, to take attendance.
Sure, Madam Chairwoman. Ms. Willingham.
Present.
Peter.
Here.
Bergdorf.
Here.
Clay.
Here.
Grimm.
Here.
Joyce.
Here.
Lakakis.
Right here.
Mayo.
Here.
And O'Brien.
Here.
All
Oh, that's
present, Madam Chairwoman.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. That's great. Okay, then we're going to move right along here. All of our department heads are present, so let's get started. And I'm going to start by Rebecca. Go ahead.
Item 1 is approving the previous minutes.
Motion.
All right. I
Second.
got a motion from Mr. Clay.
Second.
I got a second from Ms. Lakakis. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Number 2.
Item 2 is authorizing a one-time amnesty period for reduction of interest charged on delinquent property taxes. This is tabled at the request of the sponsor.
All right. And so now I want to make sure I got this clear in my head. I heard something at an earlier meeting. We do not have to vote on something that's tabled. Is that correct?
Not if it's tabled at the request of sponsor.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. All right.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Grimm.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, this has been on here for months. Is there any explanation why it's still there? I don't understand.
Resolutions automatically stay on until they fall off after the end of the 2-year period for resolutions. So it will fall off at the end of the year.
Okay, so it's not going to be acted on because I think the timing there is maybe almost over anyway. So I'm just curious. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, very much.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. All right. Number 3, please, Rebecca.
Item 3 is a local law of the County of Albany, New York, ensuring universal access to counsel during eviction proceedings in housing courts in Albany County. This is for the public hearing, and I believe Mr. Fine is not here this evening. It was tabled in law last night, and so I believe items 3 and 4 need to be tabled automatically because he is not here.
Okay. Okay, I want to clarify something here on number 3. Okay, so if we had passed this number 3, okay, the public hearing, is that going to drop off 12/31 also?
Yes, it will need to be reintroduced. The resolution cycle is ending. This 2-year period is ending at 12/31.
Okay, very good. Is everybody clear on that?
Yep.
Very good. We're going to move on along. Okay, then. All right, we are now on to current business.
Item 5 is amending the 2021 Sheriff's Office budget for the correctional facility.
Good evening, Sheriff Apple. How are you?
Good evening. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Do I see a gray beard?
Yeah, it's all the stress you guys have put on me.
Okay. All right. I'm ready to entertain your what you have in front of us here.
Madam Chairwoman, we're just looking for permission to move funds around to pay off, to balance some lines. We have lines going in the red. We just need to clean them up.
Do I
Madam
have,
Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
all right, I have a motion. First, let me just ask. Oh, I do see Mr. Peters' hand up. Is that for a question or a second? Okay, Mr. O'Brien, I did see your hand go up. Is that
I
for?
was just going to second it. That's all.
Okay, so I got a motion from Mr. Clay, and I got a second from Mr. O'Brien. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. So oh, that's my hand. I'm sorry. Okay. That was my cursor. I'm sorry. Okay, I need help tonight. Okay. Go ahead, Miss Kennedy.
Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Very well.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Hang in there, Sheriff.
Sheriff.
Kidding.
Item 6 is amending the 2021 Coroner's Office budget for administrative adjustments.
Oh, shucks, I meant to ask the sheriff something. Dave, are you taking that?
Yeah, excuse me, Madam Chair. Yes, I'm taking this one for the coroners. Similar to the sheriff's previous amendment, this is to backfill some lines that have gone negative, specifically due to the increased deaths due to the COVID pandemic as well as the opioid crisis. Obviously, this is impacting a few different lines, so we had to balance it outside of the coroner's office because their budget is so small.
Okay, nobody has a question, I do. Okay, so this is my question. And I meant to ask the sheriff the same thing. Everybody is talking about and throwing the term pandemic around. Is there pandemic dollars that some of these items would be eligible for?
In terms of these, not to my knowledge. We've asked the coroner's office if there is any grant or pandemic monies available to pay any of these, and they have not come up with any.
Okay, so it's up to, all right, okay, so these are separately elected. So the other departments would come, you would have to determine whether or not there's grant money available to pay some.
And we have under the executive branch, we have each of our department heads is actively trying to maximize those returns whenever possible.
Okay, all right. Do I have any other questions? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Motion, Madam Chair.
I got a motion from Mr. Peter.
Second.
I got a second from Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, unanimous. We are now on to number 7, Ms. Kennedy.
Item 7 is authorizing an agreement for the maintenance and support of the Cooperative Extension Association of Albany County for the year 2022.
Mr. Rogers.
Good evening, just in time. Thank you. On behalf of Lisa and the Cornell Cooperative Extension, this is the annual agreement, same structure and same format as the past several years. As you can sort of see from the RLA and resolution, slight increase due to cost of living.
Okay, can I just ask you something real quick? Do you know what they do?
They do quite a bit. I could definitely elaborate if you like, but a lot of support for our agricultural community, a lot related to sort of sustainability and the environment, as well as a lot related to food access and education. They do HEAP-related programming. They do weatherization-related programming in the city. So I don't want to go on forever, but they actually have a great website that lists all of their services that, you know, we'd be happy to share.
Okay, well, that's great. That's great. I think they deserve, it's been a while since we, you know, had just a little, a brief summary of what they do. So I thank you for giving, you know, reporting that.
Sure.
Are there any other questions besides mine? If not,
Madam Chair,
Mr. Bergdorf, sorry, see you here.
the first page of the RLA also talks about recommending appointing Chris Smith as the legislative member. Is that included in this package?
No.
as well?
Ms. Kennedy, could you please respond to that?
Sure, we believe that was done in error. That is typically done in January.
Oh, okay. It was just the first piece of paper that I looked at, and then everything else behind it sort of didn't quite match.
Understood. That was an error, and that will be coming ordinarily in the due course in January.
Okay, thank you very much for the clarification.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kennedy. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion. So I got a motion from Mr. O'Brien. I got a second from Ms. Lakakis. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much, Mr. Rogers, for sitting in for Lisa. All right. Number 8, Ms. Kennedy.
Item 8 is amending the 2021 Stormwater Coalition budget for reimbursements.
Now, Ms. Heinzman?
Yeah, hello, I'm here with the bookshelf behind me. Yeah, so what's happening is 4 municipalities contributed dues to pay for additional member dues to pay for a part-time coalition stormwater program technician. That person wasn't hired until August 27th. So this would be to reimburse the municipalities for that portion of their dues for which they did not receive services. That involves base salary plus Social Security and retirement. And then transfer to miscellaneous contractual so we can reimburse the municipalities. And the total is $15,184. And that's what we're requesting, is to transfer the funds.
Very good. If there are no questions, I'd like to entertain a motion. I got a motion from Mr. O'Brien.
Second,
I got a second from, I didn't even see that.
Mr. Peter.
Oh, okay, I got a second from Mr. Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. And happy Thanksgiving to you.
All right. Item 9 is amending the Albany County procurement policy.
Ms. Storm, are you there?
I am, and I do apologize that my video isn't working tonight for some reason, but I am here.
Oh, okay, great. We were
I
talking
am
about you
requesting-
today. Can you just tell me one thing? How many years do you
Sure.
have? How many years do you have in there now?
I have
I've seen your
37 and a
name
half
forever.
years.
How many?
Yes, 37 and a half.
Wow, yay,
I know, it's a long time.
that's okay. You're an expert at what you do.
I try to be. So what I've asked for this evening is permission to change the professional services and consultant part of our procurement policy. Basically just pushing out the requirement for written requests for proposals until after the $50,000 threshold has been reached. We don't have a lot of RFPs under the $50,000 threshold. However, when we do have them, it's normally for services that are being requested immediately, not necessarily emergencies, but things that they need to get done rather quickly. Our formal RFP process can take some time with all the requirements of publication and everything. So this will allow more efficiency for the smaller dollar RFPs that we do have.
Okay, Mr. Bergdorf.
Thank you very much. And I thank you very much, Karen, for that explanation. I called Dave Riley yesterday, and while he sent me a table which listed all the new ones, okay, he also sent me a document which was a line out copy of the procurement policy. And I guess I'm a little bit confused. And Dave, I probably should have called you back on this, but I see where 0 to 99999 is one vendor written price, correct?
That's correct.
10,000 to 49,000 instead of 19, so you're going up $30,000, is a minimum of 3 vendor written price quotes, with award recommendation being made by the department head and with the approval of the purchasing agent, and the award being made by the county executive. So actually what this does is this increases the county executives, the executive department's responsibility from $20,000 to $50,000. Is that correct?
Well, no, actually, what I would suggest in speaking with Pat Collins, what happens a lot of times with the procurement policy gets confused with the actual approval process. So what I would actually suggest that we do, where it says the minimum of 3 written price quotes with the award recommended being made by the department head and approval by the purchasing agent, what I would suggest for all of them going on down would be, and the award being made by the appropriate governmental authority under or pursuant to the county charter. So therefore, if for any reason the county charter is changed, our policy would automatically be updated. And then that it really shouldn't have been the award by the county executive, because clearly he doesn't have that authority. So I think having it pursuant to the county charter would be in the best interest.
Okay, but that's not what the paperwork that I have says.
The screen is being shared now by Mr. Collins to show the proposed new language.
Oh, when was this adopted? When was this circulated? Now.
It's up now. It hasn't been. I've been working with the purchasing department about, I understand what Karen's trying to get done, and this is probably the best way to get it. But Mr. Berger.
Okay, well, I'm gonna get to my point. Well, look, once again, it's the first time I'm seeing this language. Now, I would have to see the county charter next to this to see what it says for between $10,000 and $50,000. What does the county charter say?
There's multiple parts of the charter that would address this. The general thresholds for dollar amount authority is up to 20 is the county executive, 20 to 100 is the contract administration board, and 100 plus is the legislature. However, there's a second clause in the legislative grant authority in the charter that says if it's intermunicipal, it's the legislature. So that would go all the way down to $0. So the charter will always govern. This language makes it consistent with the charter with no questions asked.
Okay, well, I guess when we get to the next two categories, you'll see what my concern was. Obviously, the language before the language you put up from 50,000 and over was with the approval from the with a written request for proposal with award recommendations from the department head with approval from the purchasing agent. And then it took out and the award of contract made by the contract advisory board. So what goes to CAB under this new structure?
Under the new structure, whatever would go to CAB continues to go to CAB. There's two separate issues here. There's the front end procurement policy. How do we attract the vendor? And then there's the authorization on the back end. Who has the authority to grant the money? The charter is going to govern the back end. The procurement policy is going to govern the front end. And the way the language was previously and the way the language is being amended out to be is we needed to be consistent with the charter. So the authorities of 20, 100 or 0 to 20 grand, 20 to 100 and above that are all still in place. And in addition to the intermunicipal rules found in Article 2 of the charter.
Okay. I hear what you're saying. It's just that none of that is reflected in anything or any writings that I have. And the one that concerned me the most was the one where the black line copy over 100,000 was taken out completely. And it also took out with the award recommendation by the department head with approval from the purchasing agency agent and the award of the contract being made by the county legislature. So it looked to me, based on what I was given, that the county legislature was no longer going to play a role in any contracts above $50,000.
I can understand how you read it to be that way, and that's why I proposed the changes. That's why I proposed the changes that I proposed.
So could I ask that somebody, before we vote, actually put together a table that merges how you get the price, or how you get bids, and who the awarding agency is for each value before and after, with what the real life application is. Where does the legislature get involved?
I could just tell you that over $100,000, or if it's intermunicipal.
Or it's in what?
Intermunicipal with another government.
So like what we did with Saratoga County with the digester.
Yep, or, well, that one's easy. That was probably above $100,000 anyway,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we did years ago, a shared services agreement with Colony and Albany Police Department, and it was for $0. And that still required legislative approval because it's
Okay.
municipal.
All right, well,
okay.
I guess what I'm suggesting to you, and I've now said it 3 times, is that none of the paperwork that I have indicates what you are conceptualizing here tonight.
Let me say something, Paul. Okay, I had a meeting earlier, and I brought up part of what you're talking about right now. Okay,
Yeah.
And I said the same thing that you did. Okay, I wanted to see something when they told me, okay, this isn't consistent, with the charter, and something had to be put in to recognize that this was not going against what the charter said. So they had to put something in about the charter. And so what Pat has attempted to do right now was to try to answer that. Okay, and I agree with you that we should have something that does point to that we are not changing, and whatever we're doing is consistent with the charter in those instances in what we've been shown, to ensure that we stay within what we all know, understand.
Yeah. I mean, because like I say, based on what I've been seeing here, the legislature is no longer a part of it, and that makes me uncomfortable. Okay.
Well, right, but it's from what I understand. I felt, like I said, I felt the same way that you did, and that's not true. And so I'm sorry. I saw number 3. I didn't see the rest that you saw. But are we going to get something? Then that's from Pat and from Rebecca.
Yes, the backup will be updated with the correct language, and the resolution, of course, will be correct as well. So you will have this before you vote in December.
Okay. Can we get it, substantially in advance, so that if we have any questions, we can raise them? I'm not suggesting that anything what the intent is not true, but I just, before we get to the day before the meeting, I would like to see, a merged document that makes it very clear what it was before and what we're going to.
Okay,
That
so
shouldn't be
now,
a problem.
thank you. I appreciate that. I do think that we can vote on this tonight. I do agree with what you're saying, and I did ask this earlier, that we do are insured, and we're going to get that information so that we do know what we're going to vote on the 9th is exact, as it is the 9th, right? Is exactly what we're talking about tonight. Is that correct, everybody?
Yep.
Yep, and I'll get what I drafted today out to you, Mr. Bergdorf, probably tonight. And I don't believe that the extent of what you want should be in the procurement policy, but I will happily explain and give you a draft of what answers all of your questions.
That's what I'm asking for, is a document that sort of stands to the side. It's almost like a memorandum of support that says, this is actually covered by section so-and-so of the charter, which says this. This is covered by section so-and-so subparagraph A, which is this. So we can see still, what a department head can do by themselves, what a department head can do under the county executive's authority, what the contract advisory board can do at what limits, and where the legislature has to be involved.
Okay, I'm sure that he's going to provide, they're going to provide something. And I feel secure in that we will get it. So I'm
Okay.
just going
No,
to. Oh, no, I'm with
It
you.
was
Believe me.
fair to ask the
No,
question.
no, your topic is exactly what I spoke about this afternoon at length. So I'm agreeing with you. That's what I'm trying to say.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. So can I get I would still like to vote on this tonight. So can I get a motion? I got a motion from Mr. O'Brien. And I got a second from.
Second.
Thank you. I got a second from Mr. Bergdorf. So I got a motion and I got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Ms. Kennedy?
Item 10 is authorizing an agreement with SHI Inc. regarding email and cybersecurity protection services.
Okay, and that is that you, Dave, or Mr. Blanchard?
That'll be Mr. Blanchard, ma'am.
Good evening,
Okay,
Madam Chair. Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. Thank you for the time. As you may know or may not know, email originates about 90% of all the cyber attacks. So we are looking to greatly enhance our email protection platform, as well as add other protections with this Barracuda security suite for total email protection. This will also back up our Office 365 data. Since the pandemic, a lot more data is going up to the cloud as people are working from home. It'll allow us to protect that data and also allow us to react more quicker to email incidents that could bring in ransomware, et cetera. And it's also going to save us next year. We're due for hardware replacement on our email archiver. By moving that out to the cloud, we'll save probably at least 30 to 40 grand on that hardware. So we're looking for that. Any questions?
Yes. All right. Now, there was more than one person that company that bid on this?
Correct. Well, SHI provided multiple contract quotes.
Okay.
These are all vehicles that we worked with purchasing on that are allowable through purchasing. Sourcewell gave us the best contract price, and it also allowed us an easier platform to purchase for 5 years. By getting into a 5-year agreement, we're getting a much better price and locking in that price, as this security stuff really is just increasing in price on an annual basis.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions?
Madam Chair?
Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, Perry, will this help us with ransomware, which really concerns me? We've seen a lot of municipalities, including Albany, hit by this. Will this help with ransomware, and do they have to keep updating it? How do they actually prevent ransomware?
So any email sent to the county already goes through the Barracuda platform. And it already does a great job on checking links and things like that. With this enhanced protection, some of the things like account takeovers, where you might get an email that says, hey, put your credentials in here so you can reset your password. This will make sure that this is actually legitimate. What happens is people put their credentials in, and then somebody steals those credentials, and they have a way into our email system to send legit emails that can bypass those securities. It also allows better protection against people spoofing emails. So say executives that are out there that people don't know their names, like our elected officials, people spoof their emails. They'll say it's Daniel McCoy, but it's a fake email, but people don't check the email. They'll just see Dan McCoy and click on a link. This helps with that protection as well. And the greatest thing about this is if we do spot something, if somebody reports an email, with this, Barracuda sometimes already has identified it, and we can quickly rip it out of other people's emails if it has already propagated through, which is something that we don't have now.
Harry, do you send out emails and if people click on it, they say, hey, you shouldn't have clicked on that? Do we send out these, your screw up emails, or is this, because I don't ever know if it's real or not, half the time.
Right. So right now we're set up, if you fail on us multiple times, we'll do some remedial training. It's like a 5 to 10 minute training that we set up. So we do track that. Success rate has been very good. Our success rate against phishing has been excellent, but there's always that one. It just needs one to click a link that for some reason gets through and could bring in ransomware. So that's why we really, wherever we can protect email, that's where we want to put our money, as well as other things, but that's a big one.
You're only in the spotlight when something goes wrong. The fact that something else goes wrong means you've really done a great job. It means because you're not in that spotlight. So thank you.
All right.
Harry,
Yeah, thank you.
Harry, do many people check with you and say, is this real or is it not?
Yes. Well, some personally, but most of we have the phishing button for people's Outlook here at the county, or they send it to a spam check email, and our email administrators will check it. We've also purchased a system last year that was not a lot of money, that if people submit it, this other software used will do some remedial checking for us and do some of the work for us. But it's not as great as ripping out these emails that as we would like.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blanchard.
Thank you.
No other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I got a motion from Mr. Bergdorf. I got a second from Mr. O'Brien. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Blanchard.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Keep up the good work, Perry. Really.
Thank you.
Let's see, Ms. Kennedy.
Item 11 is amending the 2021 Department of Social Services budget for fees for services.
Is that you, Mr. Riley, now?
That will be me again, Madam Chairwoman. Again, this is to clean up some lines. This one was inadvertently, we inadvertently decreased this line a little too much when we were backfilling their insurance charges that we had to do before to balance out countywide. So this is just to make them whole on there, so they have enough for everything they need.
Okay.
Motion.
Okay, I got a motion from Ms. Lakakis. I got a second from Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Riley. Number 12.
Item 12 is amending the 2021 Department of Residential Healthcare Facilities budget for administrative adjustments.
Mr. Slatsky, how are you tonight?
Very good, thank you. Hope you're
Very
doing well.
He's still
Yeah,
there.
this is I'm back, right?
You're still
So
here.
this-
Oh, my goodness.
This is also to clean up our 2021 budget. It's not costing any additional dollars within the budget. It's just moving dollars around to pay for additional overtime lines, electric, food, insurance that were underfunded in our projections, and now we need to fund them.
Okay. All right. Any questions? I entertain a motion.
Motion.
I got a motion from Mr. O'Brien. Got a second from Ms. Lakakis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Ms. Kennedy?
Item 13 is authorizing an agreement with National Grid regarding a gas rebate incentive program for the Shaker Place Rehabilitation and Nursing Center.
Mr. Slackey?
Yes, this is a program that is really taking advantage of all of the energy efficiency that we put into our renovation and new construction at the nursing home. This is already completed and approved by National Grid. And we're going to get a rebate check in the amount of $67,564. And this agreement will allow us to receive those dollars.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do I have any comments or questions? If not, I'll entertain the motion.
Motion.
I got a motion from Mr. O'Brien.
Second.
I got a second from Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Mr.
Okay, thank you. Happy holidays.
Yeah, same here. Happy holidays to you also, sir. All right. Ms.
Thank you, Ray.
Kennedy,
Item 14 is authorizing the County Director of Real Property Tax Services to approve certain applications made for correction of tax roll errors, refunds, and credits of taxes during the 2022 calendar year without prior audit by the legislature.
is that you, Mr. McGuire?
Yes, Madam Chair.
All right.
So I would actually like to request that this be tabled. The laws that allow for this resolution to be adopted require that it be adopted in the calendar year that the authority is granted, which would be 2022. So if it would please the chair and the members of the Audit Finance Committee, I would like to table it until January of 2022.
Do I have to have a motion for that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Can I get a motion? Okay, I got a motion for Mr. O'Brien. Where's my second?
I'll second.
I got a second from Ms. Lakakis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Can I just ask a quick question? Mr. McGuire, will
Yes,
you
ma'am.
be doing 15, 16, 17, and 18?
I have 15, 16, 17. I'm
Okay.
not sure what is on 18.
Take 18.
You
I'm
have
taking
it?
18. Taking
Is he
18.
taking, you have 18?
I do,
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Okay, all right. So go ahead, Ms. Kennedy.
Item 15 is authorizing a payment in lieu of taxes agreement with Yellow 8 LLC regarding real property located at 518 Elm Avenue in the town of Bethlehem.
Mr. McGuire. Mhm.
We've been working with Yellow 8. It's a subsidiary of Helios Energy, and they are looking to, forgive me, not Helios, Cipriani Energy. They're building a solar array that's going to be about 2 megawatts of AC electricity within the town of Bethlehem. Real property tax law, section 487, allows taxing jurisdictions to enter into a pilot agreement for taxes that would be exempt under the section 480, otherwise be exempt under section 487 exemption. So seeking approval from the legislature to have the executive's office enter into a pilot agreement with Yellow 8 LLC for annual payment of $1,500. Hopefully that revenue will be collected in January of 2023.
No questions. I'm sorry, Mr. Bergdorf.
Mr. McGuire, I don't, is this the first time we've done something like this with a solar array?
There was one pilot that was adopted, and I believe it was November of last year.
Yeah.
My predecessor, Miss Alex, had worked with getting that through, and it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was adopted at the November meeting of last year, 2020.
That's
Well,
correct.
I guess I'm just wondering, do we have a policy that makes our, gives some consistency to our pilot agreements? Because if solar arrays go the way people want them to, there probably will be more of them. I mean, we're going to have one on county-owned land by a private developer. I don't know how we're going to treat that in terms of taxes. Maybe Lucas could tell us that. But I just wonder, when the next one comes up, is there a formula that you use to come up with this $1,500? Is it based on a megawatt? Is it based on acreage? Or what was the methodology that you used that could be consistent going forward, if consistency is even desirable? I don't
Sure.
even know the answer to that.
The actual format of the agreement was, I worked with the Department of Law to amend the actual document to be provide a consistent document for the pilots throughout the county that we'll be hopefully executing. As far as the amount per megawatt, it is an amount per megawatt AC. Under section 487, the developers have to notice the county of their intent to develop a solar array. And that's generally for these larger scale, what I would call commercial arrays. So these aren't, your rooftop residential arrays.
Right.
These are either community scale or larger grid tie-in utility scale pilots. We did adopt a resolution earlier this year stating our intent to enter into a pilot agreement with any developer who is proposing to build an array larger than 1 megawatt. So currently for the county, it is our policy to have a pilot for anything greater than 1 megawatt. As far as the amount of payment per megawatt, the developers will generally come to us with a number that would work for them as far as their financing would go, and to make it so that the project is profitable. Ultimately, they're in the business of making money, and they want to make sure that they are able to make money on their investments. I try to get as much as we can from the county, or for the county. I worked with Mr. Rogers in the exec's office, and Mr. Riley as well for some of these proposed numbers, and feel that in the case of this item and the other items that we've tried to do our best for the county. Ultimately, Section 487 says that the pilot agreement can't charge more than what the property will be paying in real property taxes. So, and that would be across the board for town, county, and school district taxes. So we kind of have to keep underneath that ceiling number, and that's part of the constraint with these numbers as well.
I could just add, if that's all right, there are sort of two other criteria that we look at. And as these were picking up, you're right, Mr. Bergdorf, we did sort of informally meet with our office, Mr. McGuire's office, management and budget and law, to say, how should we approach these? And the two sort of informal policies are NYSERDA a few years back went through an exercise of developing recommended pilot ranges for each utility area. So obviously, there are unique characteristics to New York City versus here versus Western New York, where you have hydro. We do try to ensure that the proposed pilot agreement falls within the NYSERDA recommended range for our area. So it's, at least meets that minimum threshold, and in trying to strike a balance doesn't exceed the higher threshold. And we've been able to achieve that so far. And then the actual payments, as they're divided up between the three taxing jurisdictions, so the county, the local town, city or village, and the school, it depends who chooses to opt in, but typically it follows the same taxing percentage as your property taxes. So the schools will typically get the most, and so on and so forth. You can have unique scenarios. The one we did in November, no one else chose to participate for whatever reason, meaning the town or the school. So the entire pilot came to us. That's pretty rare, but that just happened in that instance. In most cases, you'll have two or likely three participate, and it'll follow the policies that I mentioned. Frankly, not having a formal policy can be an advantage because it does allow us to negotiate in the interest of the county. Some municipalities have set, this will be our pilot rate for all projects. And I don't know that that's always advantageous, but just wanted to give you a little bit more background on the methodology.
Just curious as to how we're going to treat the next two or three that come down the line as it compares to something like this.
I think it would be the same. It would be, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but it would make sure it falls within the NYSERDA recommended threshold for this region. And then it depends on who else participates in terms of the other municipalities.
Thank you.
Can I just, I was just looking at the back, where it talks about for the next 15 years, what the payment, is going to be.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so I was just reading here, under the law, pilot amounts cannot exceed what the tax amount would have been without the Section 487 exemption. So the value of the property is set. for 50, but I do see it does increase, you know.
The pilot payment is set based upon Exhibit B. There is a annual 2% escalator for that goes throughout that 15-year period. The assessed value would be determined by the municipal assessor, and the pilots are negotiated independent from that assessment that's determined by the local assessor's office. Section 487 allows us to enter into the pilot agreements. It doesn't require us to be involved in that assessment project or process. That's the right of that local municipality.
Madam Chair, can I ask Lucas a question?
Mr. Bergdorf.
Lucas, how's the one on county land by the airport going to work?
The school district and town can take whatever approach they feel. I think presumably the county will not tax itself, so we would likely not enter into a pilot with that, but the other taxing jurisdictions have the ability and authority to do so if they would like.
Okay, so there's no private entity making any money there?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question.
Through some management agreement. I mean, I'll give you a, for instance, from long time ago. The airport leased the air cargo facility for airport purposes. Came before the Colony IDA and told the IDA that in return for financing, that they would make payment in lieu of taxes. And then after the facility was built, they decided that they weren't going to make a payment in lieu of taxes. So that is county land with the airport, with the cargo facility on it, which at the time, and I'm going back 20 years, did not pay any taxes. So I'm just wondering.
I think I understand. So I think one way to think about it that might help frame the conversation is all of the costs that are added to this project or in part of this project will be factored in to the power purchase agreement rate that we negotiate to buy the power from the developer. So if we chose to tax the developer, we would that added cost would then be factored in to the rate that the developer was then charging back to the county for the power. So it's just sort of, you could do it, but I wouldn't advise it.
You're taking it on one side and giving it back on
Exactly.
the other side.
Exactly.
Okay, it's a little different. Okay.
All right, thank you so much. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
I got a motion from Mr. O'Brien. I got a second from Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, we are now, Ms. Kennedy.
Item 16 is authorizing a payment in lieu of taxes agreement with Yellow 5 LLC regarding real property located at 2 Van Buren Boulevard in the town of Gilderlin.
Where are yellow 6 and 7? I want to know.
Okay. Who am I entertaining right now? Oh, Mr. McGuire, you still up, right?
Yes, ma'am. I can ask about yellow 6 and 7. I'm not sure. Yellow 5, the difference between yellow 5 and yellow 8. Yellow 5 is in the town of Gilderlin. It's for 2.375 megawatts. Still at the $750 megawatt AC payment. The total initial annual payment would be $1,781.25. It's for a 15-year term, and there is that 2% annual escalator as well.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
I got a motion from Ms. Lakakis.
Second.
I got a second from Mr. O'Brien. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Item 17 is authorizing a payment in lieu of taxes agreement with the Helios Energy New York 13 LLC regarding real property located at Dunnsville Road in the town of Gilderlin.
Motion.
Well, can he talk first?
Okay.
Um,
Like almost identical.
They are nearly identical. This is 5 megawatts, the town of Gilderlin. Initial annual payment, $5,225. I have a typo on my cover sheet, so excuse me. But the Exhibit B in the pilot agreement, it does start at $5,225 with an annual 2% escalator as well.
I think we're ready for you now.
Oh, now you want
Question?
me? Okay,
Question?
I'd like to make a
Oh, no, you
motion.
got a question, Mr. Grimm?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair.
Okay.
This money goes to where? Where does the money go, the payment?
I would defer to Mr. Riley, how that money would be entered into the budget as a pilot payment.
Mr. Riley?
I mean, how does the town and the school district, how are they affected?
There's
Well, I can answer that part.
Okay,
It depends on the taxing jurisdiction. Under 487, the taxing jurisdictions have the option to opt out of the exemption. If they were to opt out of the exemption through a local law or resolution, then the property would be taxable and they would issue or receive a tax bill in the manner that you and I do for our real property.
okay,
As far as a pilot agreement would go, if that taxing jurisdiction chooses to enter into a pilot agreement, the payment schedule, time frame, and place of payment would all be outlined in that pilot agreement. Gilderlin schools, or Bethlehem schools and Gilderlin schools, they're having their pilot payments made to them in September, and it's the remaining share of the pilot payment, as Mr. Rogers had mentioned, whatever their proportionate share is of that total pilot payment is payable to them. And as far as how it's calculated in their budget, that part I'm not too sure.
okay, that's good. Thanks. Thank you, Madam
Yep.
Chair.
All right, then, thank you very much. No other questions? I entertain a motion.
Motion.
I got a motion from Mr. O'Brien.
Second.
I got a second from Mr. Clay. Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, so we are now on to
Item 18 is authorizing the conveyance of real property located at 311 Second Avenue in the city of Albany.
Madam Chair, this property, as stated, is 311 Second Avenue. The county has on deposit $46,013, which represents the total taxes and interest that have been accrued. This will be going to the remaining heirs of the original owners. I believe they're all grandchildren.
wow. Is this a house or a lot?
I can't imagine they'd be paying $46,000 for a lot.
Oh, okay. I mean, I can't tell.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know that off the top of my head, but like I said, I can't imagine it would be $46,000 for a lot.
Okay, so we got 10 people who now own this property.
Yes. Well, they will if you offer.
Wanda, it says 2-family year-round residents.
Oh, okay, thank you.
There we
Thank
go.
you.
Thank you.
Betty, Peter. Wow. Oh, okay. So, yep, must be grandchildren. Okay. All right, then. Can I get a motion?
Motion, Madam
Got a
Chair.
motion from Mr. O'Brien. I got a second from Mr. Cactus. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. All right. Ms. Kennedy, we are going to take 19 and 20 last. And
All right.
move to 21, please.
Item 21 is approving the establishment and creation of a retirement contribution reserve fund in the Albany County budget.
Okay, Mr. Riley.
So, Madam Chairwoman, this is the formality required under state law to designate a new designated reserve fund. This is the first of two that we're going to be hearing tonight. These were both proposed in the budget. This is for a retirement contribution reserve fund of $3 million. It will be applied to future New York State pension retirement system payments, with the intention to wipe out the last of our amortization that we had to basically finance out when we were in some rougher financial times years ago.
And so now, I guess, how many years ago was that?
I I believe the last time we had to do it was 8 years ago, maybe 7 years ago.
And we have finished paying for it?
This will be the last one coming up in 2020, or our next payment in 2022.
Okay, and so, excuse me. And so we are going to set aside 3 million, you said, in retirement contribution reserve?
Yeah, that will drop our, excuse me, I'm kind of losing my voice here. That will drop our payment from about 25 million to approximately 22 million.
When you say drop our payment, how
Well,
much do we?
The payment
much-
will remain the same, but we will only have to take 22 out of the general fund versus 25 because we will have this 3 million in the reserve to pay on top of it.
Okay, so, excuse me. So that's what our retirement payment is?
About 25 million a year right now with that amortization involved. Going forward, as long as the market doesn't turn against us too bad, hopefully it'll stay in the low 20s for a little while.
Wow. Okay. All right. And so, okay, all right. Are there any other questions? Mr. Berger?
I'm sorry. Where is this $3 million coming from?
This is part of some of the bonded proceeds that the comptroller found that the previous comptroller had not closed out the projects on.
Okay.
There were about, well, the pieces that are going to these two reserves were handled a little differently. If it is directly the result of bonded proceeds, and we went through all this with the budget, but you weren't around, Mr. Bergdorf. If it's direct bonded proceeds, that has to go back directly into a debt reserve fund. And as you see in the table, that's where the majority of what she has kind of come up with has been placed. These were proceeds that were repayments back from court administration for all the work done at the county courthouse.
So they're not subject to having to be restricted for court projects.
Well, they don't have to go directly towards that debt service, but because they were originally bonded proceeds, even though it comes back as the pay through. That's why it still has to stay as a designated reserve, but it can be a different designated reserve.
Okay, so this is really a short-term reserve fund that you're establishing to offset a payment in 2022, which you anticipate would have been $25 million, but you're using this $3 million as a one-shot to reduce the expenditure to $22 million.
Yes, because that roughly lines up with what that additional amortization, that last amortization payment will be.
Okay. Now, under GASB, don't you have to set every year an amount of your long-term retirement and healthcare liabilities?
I'm not sure if I'm following.
They're under the government accounting standard, board. There has to be a footnote in your in your annual audit for expected total retirement expenditures and total health insurance expenditures. Are you familiar with those?
Those are all filed by the comptroller's office. I'm not surprised that there are those requirements, but we don't do that in our office.
Well, those are generally very, very large numbers. I was surprised when I worked for the Dormitory Authority that the number was, somewhere like $80 million. And I would be interested in knowing if you could find out from the controller for us what those numbers are for Albany County, our long-term liability under retirement and health insurance.
I can get that for you.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right, there's no other comments. I'll entertain a motion on this now.
Motion.
Got a motion from Mr. O'Brien. I got a second from Ms. Lukacs. Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, number 22.
Item 22 is approving the establishment and creation of a capital reserve fund in the Albany County budget.
Madam Chairwoman, this is similar to our previous one. This is the remainder of the portion that we're going to take as a separate reserve fund in this year. the capital reserve fund is designated by the state comptroller as basically, these are monies that when we're doing capital projects that are approved in the capital plan next year, we will not have to actually bond them. We can just take the cash out of this reserve, therefore saving the county, the debt service on that $3.7 million over the next 10 years.
Okay. All right.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Bergdorf.
I just want to understand, this also is intended to be used as a short-term reserve fund, which will be used as a one-shot in 2022.
That is the way we've lined it up. If it looks like something crazy is going to happen out on the horizon a year or two later, we may shift that out to further out years, but the intention is to take it next year.
Okay, so, but I mean, I guess I just would like the committee to realize while we're calling this a reserve fund, we're taking $5 million that the controller found, two in this 3.7, so almost $6 million. And we're saving money in 2022, but it's going to create a hole in 2023.
Well, no, this will cause a savings for the next 10 years. This will save us approximately $375,000 a year over the next 10 years.
Okay, so we don't expect to.
Because by not bonding, we won't have to pay that debt service every year.
Okay, so we're going to be reducing the principal that we have to be paying interest on $7 million.
3.75 million for this one.
For this one, where I'm thinking of the two of them combined. Yeah.
Well, they both have different impacts.
Yeah, different impacts. Okay, but so you're saying this is not going to create a problem for us in 2023?
No, this will save us money through to 2031.
Okay. All righty.
All right, thank you very much. I'll entertain.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Grimm.
Thank you. Yeah, Commissioner, we've had some extended conversations about this money. We basically the controller found this on a balance sheet. It's about $7 million. And now the decision was made. It was a policy decision to put them into these two funds, and you described them very well. But we're actually saving money. In other words, we're in a much better financial situation because of this. So we're actually saving dollars that we normally would have had to spend from the general fund. So the general fund is in better shape, and our financial situation is in better shape relative to these two substantial reserves, which are $6.75 million. It's not small change. I got that right?
Yeah, and I agree with you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Thanks,
great.
Dave. Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, can I get a motion?
Motion.
Got a motion from Mr. O'Brien. I got a second from, who said that?
Mr. Peter.
Oh, I got a second from Mr. Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, and then 23.
Item 23 is amending the 2021 Albany County budget for administrative adjustments.
Madam Chair, similar to two of the earlier requests that I put in front of the committee, these are just cleanups of lines that are projected to run negative, mostly due to the increases in insurance that we were talking about earlier.
Okay, all right. Okay, no questions. I entertain a motion.
Motion.
I got a second. I got a second from Mr. Bergdorf. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Number 24, please.
Item 24 is amending the rules and regulations for Albany County employees longevity schedule.
So, Madam Chair, as we talked about during the budget presentations, as well as when the county executive released the budget, this is the, I guess, the bookkeeping on the back end to update the longevity payments to the higher valuations that we had discussed previously. This is all currently budgeted in the 2022 executive budget by department based on current workforce. These payments have not been updated since the 1980s. So the significance that they had originally been intended for is greatly deteriorated. Help to recruitment and retention of long-term employees.
All right, any questions?
Madam Chair?
Mr. Grimm?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. How much money extra will this cost us, Dave? Is that in here? I don't see this. Is it that in the fiscal?
I don't know if it's in this backup or not. When we discussed it during the budget, we spoke about it. It's about $470,000.
$470,000, and that is per year payments?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very welcome. Mr. Mayo?
Is this a one-time payout? Like if you look at the 20 years of completed service, do you get the $5,000 at the 20 years or do you get it at 21, 22? Do you get $5,000?
Annually, it's every year from 20 beyond.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. Mr. Madore.
Madam Chair, what I have a couple of questions. Last night we went line by line and we gave some people some significant raises. And that was on top of whatever the county executive proposed for them. So you could have somebody who was making X number of dollars who got a $10,000 raise and now would get, if they were there over 20 years, another $5,000 longevity piece. So in essence, they could be getting, 2% plus whatever the raise was, plus 5,000. What was the total number? What was the longevity bonus for each of those? Actually, the only ones I'm really concerned about is 7 and 9, 10 to 14, 15 and 19, and 20 plus. What are we changing them from?
I thought that was included in the submission, but I don't see it. Let me see if I can pull it up on my computer here.
So 3 to 4 remains the same. 5 to 6 goes from 350 to 500. 7 and 9 goes from 600 to 1,000. 10 to 14 goes from 900 to 1,500. 15 to 19 goes from 1,250 to 2,000. And 20 plus goes from $1,700 to $5,000.
Yeah, the biggest impact is to the long-term employees.
And how many employees do we have over 20 years?
I've provided all that to the majority office. I don't have that in front of me. I'm sorry.
Well, we know one of them is Karen Storm. She told us that tonight.
Yeah, sure. And well deserved.
I'd like to have her retirement.
Yes. Okay. Are there any other questions? Dave, I see you have your hand back up.
Just one quick one. Is this pensionable also?
No.
Okay.
I don't believe so. No.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't count.
Right. It doesn't.
Wait, say that again.
It doesn't add to your total last 3 or whatever.
Oh, okay. All right.
Mr. Riley,
is that a separate? Can I? Wait a minute. Let me ask a question. So, where are you? Okay, there you are, Dave. So, is this a separate check outside of their normal, salary?
Yes, this is received on the anniversary date.
Okay, so it's not included as far as salary is concerned, and that's why it's not included in the final.
It is line item. It is line itemed out, but let me double check on that because I'm not 100% certain. So I will get back to staff on both parties there and let you guys know.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I was going to ask that Mr. Riley provide the minority with the same breakdown that he provided to the majority office as to the the census for
census.
people in each of these categories?
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, if there are no other questions, I'll entertain motion.
Motion.
Got a motion from Mr. O'Brien.
Second.
I got a second from Ms. Lakakis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. We are now going to go back to number 19, I believe. Is that correct, Ms. Kennedy?
Thank you.
Yes, it is. Item 19 is authorizing an agreement with New York State Homes and Community Renewal to receive Community Development Block Grant CARES Act funds.
Okay, and who's talking about this tonight?
So, Madam Chair, I'm going to start and sort of give a high level of this proposal, and then we have Adam Zarenko from the Land Bank and Pat Alderson from the County Executive's Office, who were more intimately involved with the two programs. So, as part of the CARES Act that passed in 2020, there was a special allocation for the CDBG program called Cdbg Cares. It was similar to the annual block grant program, but with some additional focus targeting towards the impacts of COVID-19 and had certain different flexibilities, and then on the other hand, certain additional requirements. So the two categories that were most applicable to the county and the services we provide were housing and mental health. So we worked with the two relevant agencies, the mental health department and the land bank, on proposals that would satisfy the criteria of the CARES Act funding, which must have a target of serving LMI or low to median income population residents, and meet other CDBG national objectives. So the two, if you recall, there was a public hearing on these two, and we were fortunate to be awarded both of these programs, the $1 million towards a land bank initiative and the approximately $389,000 for mental health. And I would like to turn it over. I'm going to start with Mr. Zarenko. The one thing before I do that's unique about these funds is they do have a time clock on them related to the CARES Act. So they are expected to be administered within 12 months of award. So with that, I'd like to let Mr. Zarenko from the Land Bank provide a little bit more background on the Land Bank project, and then have Mr. Alderson go into a little bit more depth on the mental health program.
Okay, so before you do that, I heard you mention the LMEI. Okay, now define that for me. Say it again.
Low to moderate income. I can see if I can pull up. It differs in different areas, but it is, I think, 80% of median income. I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it's 80% of median income or lower.
And that applies where in Albany County?
So the beneficiaries of these dollars, wherever it is in the county, must meet that criteria.
Okay, and so where's that in Albany County?
So, well, specific programmatically, the land bank program is focused in the South End. And what that means from their perspective is that the residents who end up occupying the rehabilitated homes must fall within that threshold.
Was this for the entire, both projects, or 3, 4, whatever it is? I'm trying to
same requirements. So for the mental health one, I was just going to explain, same requirements for mental health. So there are 4 components of that. Geographically, 2 of them are predominantly focused on the city of Albany. One, a small piece, is focused on rural, and then the accord element of it obviously started in the hill towns, but has the potentially expanded focus.
Potentially expanded. Okay, so
Again, I'm not,
Okay, so
I'm
this is
not
what we'll do.
involved.
Wait. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go to the land bank first, just like you said, okay? And then we'll get into the next part. All right?
Sure.
Okay, so you wanted Mr. Zarenko to talk about the land bank, is that correct?
I think he's very qualified to do that. Yes.
Okay, all right.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks, Madam Chair. Hi, honorable legislators. Good to see some of you at least on Zoom. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about this, and thanks for the support, because it's really fantastic that we just got $1 million grant from the state program to rehab the buildings in this area that we've been focusing on. Like Luke said, this is federal CDBG funds that were allocated to the state under the CARES Act, which is the same act, if you recall, before all this infrastructure Build It Back Act. This was the one allocated to local governments to do relief from the impacts of the COVID-19 coronavirus. It's the same bucket of money that the rent relief money that the state under the new governor is putting out. It's the same process. It's the same application as CDBG, but it has a focus on mitigating the impact that the coronavirus had, the disproportionate impact on low to mod populations and communities of color. So the state has a rolling application process. The land bank, given the type of entity that we are, we're not eligible to apply directly. So we're really excited that we got to partner with the county to make us eligible. We chose from our inventory buildings that we had current ownership of, which frankly isn't at the levels that it used to be, because the moratoriums have caused the number of properties transferred to the land bank from the county to cease for over a year effectively. So we have been trying to program grants and go after money for all of our inventory that's left, which is the hardest buildings to turn around because they require the most investment, usually more than they're worth. So we have these 3 buildings here on 2nd Avenue that were nicely clustered. We acquired them since 2019. We've had no buyers, no interest, no application because the amount of work that they need. So each one's a 2-family. There's 45, 48, and 52nd Avenue, if you're familiar with the South End neighborhood. We chose that because we have them in inventory, because we haven't been able to figure out a way to solve for them, and we don't have any more Attorney General grant funds to put into properties. That's what we had been using. And we applied for the state to basically get the subsidy at the full amount to fully rehab the buildings into 3 2-family homes, which we then sell to low, moderate, or low income folks, which what Luke was saying is governed by HUD, which is for the Albany, Schenectady, Troy metropolitan statistical area. It's the same affordability levels for Albany County in the eyes of HUD. And so like a family of 4, 80% AMI would be around $80,000 adjusted gross income. And average median family income, at least last year, is just under, because it's countywide or region-wide, is like $99,000. So we believe we'll be able to find families that can afford these homes under those thresholds pretty easily, especially given the affordability crisis that we're in. And basically, we got to get moving on the money, but we do have to take it through our respective processes to get the grant and the documents in place. But we do have scopes of work for the buildings. That is how we came up with the numbers. We use the same contractors to do scopes for most of our buildings. And, we are ready to roll, basically. And I want to thank you guys for this. If we didn't apply for this money, which is a very specific eligibility pool, it would probably go someplace else and not to Albany County. So we're not in a position to turn down any grant money, especially from the state, but we can't do it on our own. So we do thank you guys for your leadership on this.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
First, can you tell me why you just specifically chose the South End? And I'm going to tell you why I'm asking that question. Okay. Yeah. West Hill and North Albany is in dire need of new housing stock in some of the buildings. As you know, you talked about on 25 North First Street, which you own right there.
Yep.
The state had a tree growing into the roof of the house.
Yep.
And so I just want to know, I mean, I can go through blocks of North Albany and see red X's.
Yes.
So
Yeah, good question.
I just want to know why you chose the South End. Because these two areas, okay, are just, they're left out.
It's a fair question. It's a good question. So we had set aside around our last 30 or so buildings that we currently own in the city of Albany. A lot of folks see the red X's and think the land bank owns those buildings. We actually own less than 10% of all vacant buildings in the city of Albany right now because our model has been working and we've been putting them back into productive use. So a lot of those red X's are not land bank properties. The ones that are, because we're out of Attorney General grant funds and buyers are required to put more into them than they're worth for most of them, we land banked them essentially using our statutory authority. And we applied to the governor's Legacy Cities program, which was announced under former Governor Cuomo, which is a very deep subsidy for specifically for the following: for New York State land banks that assemble and cluster vacant buildings in legacy cities in the state of New York that then partner with minority owned or operated developers or contractors to use the money to turn them into affordable homeownership opportunities for first-time home buyers. Each round can get up to 10 properties. So we tried to grab 30 properties that we could find from our inventory, and we land banked them and tried to find 3 developers, minority contractors or developers. 2 of the grant rounds have gone in. We have a soft approval on the first 9 buildings. 3 of those buildings or 2 of those buildings are adjacent to these on 2nd Avenue. And there's a couple in West Hill and Arbor Hill. And on the next round, we're trying to get 10 with a contractor, which again are more focused on West Hill and Arbor Hill because that's where the properties that we have left are. So we need to go after a lot of money to save these buildings. I mean, the average rehab per unit right now is around $150,000 per unit. So a 2-family vacant building in the city of Albany is going to cost around $275,000 to $300,000 to rehab. So legislator, to answer your question, is we are applying frantically and aggressively for grants to rehab the buildings that we have left. But a lot of the vacant buildings in the city of Albany right now are not in the land bank's possession.
Okay, I'm not. Okay, let me just put it to you like this. What I really wanted from you is a breakdown of I understand, I know very well that all the red X's don't belong to the land bank. I know that. Okay, so, but when you chose the South End and you just spoke about that, and what about how many do you have in West Hill? How many do you have in North Albany? How many do you have in Arbor Hill? So forget the red X's. I did bring it up, okay, but just tell me, why you chose the South End as opposed to West Hill.
For this particular grant? Or just?
Yeah, okay, yeah. But it's great.
For this particular grant, because even the developers that we're working with for the other grant program the governor has specifically for land banks, the amount of work and investment was so deep for these particular buildings that those developers couldn't make them work even with the double subsidy of the other grant program. So we didn't have a solution for these 3 buildings, but down the street on 34
I think I read that in here somewhere.
Yeah.
About the legacy cities are going to transfer 9, but it says 9 more. So they're not a part of this.
Yeah, we couldn't include these 3 in legacy cities, but we do have 2 more on 2nd Avenue and an additional 7. And that's going to be around $2.5 million of additional subsidy from the state to rehab buildings in the South End, in West Hill and Arbor Hill. And we're in the process of applying for a second round with another 8 or 9 buildings in West Hill and Arbor Hill for another $2.5 million from this pot of money. There's only $25 million for land banks across the state, but there's no limit on how many times each land bank can apply. So we're trying to piece together all these grants to have a cohesive strategy. Why we like these 3 particular buildings in the South End is, of the 30 plus, maybe 40 buildings we own right now, these are nicely clustered at an intersection down the street from another 2, which we are going to likely get a grant for. And we try to do multiple properties online at once or lots, so we have that amplified impact instead of just picking off one at a time, kind of from neighborhood for neighborhood, if we can. But, you know, we have to go to where the properties are and where the subsidy is, basically. So I hope that's answering it correctly, if I'm interpreting the question correctly.
Yep, you're getting there. So now the other thing I see here, now we know you're saying it's going to cost $275,000 somewhere in that neighborhood. Is that right? Where are you?
It's going to cost about $150,000 per unit, which is upwards of, you know, $300,000 plus per two-family building to fully rehab, because that's how much it costs, regardless of who rehabs these buildings right now with the rates that are going. But this is also federal funds, so there's always an additional cost to using them. There's different insurance provisions, there's limitations on procurement, and these particular buildings are in a historic district, which adds another layer of complexity and cost.
And so we're going, these new homeowners are going to pay how much for these houses?
I would think that these would go between $100,000 to $150,000 fully rehab for two families, which, you know, we see Habitat homes going for, the single families going for like 125, 135,000. So for a two family, if we do sell the two family to an owner occupant who wants to use it as a rental, we're going to probably restrict that rental to be an affordable rental. So we add the affordability to the unit, or we may provide the option, if the state allows us, to have like extended family live in the other unit. We have a lot more and more buyers coming to us for two families where they want to live with their primary family in the, you know, the big unit, and then their, you know, their in-laws or whoever, their extended family in the smaller unit. So we're going to try to be open to that as long as we're serving the right affordability thresholds.
All right. That's the extent of my questions on this right now.
Thank you.
Are there any?
Chair?
I can't.
Sorry, it's Matt Peter.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry. I got a couple of screens going on here. Okay, Matt.
No worries. Just if there were no other questions, I was going to make a motion, Madam Chair.
I know. I see Carolyn McLaughlin. Excuse me. I see Carolyn McLaughlin has her hand up.
I thank. Am I on mute, or can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Zarenko, I know this is a wonderful announcement, and you know, the city, I mean the county and the state money for the land bank. In this particular project, I would not, you know, what do they say? I don't know. I'm so tired when I can't think straight, but I think it's a great thing for the South End. And I drive past these buildings every day on my way home. So I'm looking forward to what can happen there. I also believe, I want you to clarify something for me. While you said it could be up to 275 to 300,000 to re a home, and yet you said that, I believe you'll be able to market these buildings to low to moderate income people. How is that going to be done?
Yeah, so the marketing, or how do the numbers square?
Yes.
The numbers.
I mean, I understand the cost to rehab, but in terms of then once you have it and the people that you're going to market it to sell.
Yeah. So this, I understand, legislator. Yeah. So the state has pretty specific guidelines on making sure that we're following all the fair housing policies and programs and the federal law, but we also have to have a marketing plan in place. We do have a marketing mechanism in place for our regular real estate movement, but what we want to do here is expand our outreach to make sure that we're serving the populations that are most impacted by COVID-19. And one of the things that we're hoping to pair with this legislator is that access to capital program that we established coming out of the Underserved Communities Committee with home headquarters at Community Development Financial Institution. So we can find buyers that even if they don't have the access to the capital on hand, they could go to a CDFI, which is basically like a bank that's driven by missions as well as financials, and get the capital. So the plan is going to be drafted for the state, but it's going to include as much community engagement and marketing outreach as we can. And frankly, it's an area where I think we could collaborate and use some help, making sure we're getting the word out about these buildings once we get the approval to start, the construction basically, and we know we're going to be headed that way. In a perfect world, because of the timeline on this, which is very aggressive, we would want to start identifying potential buyers and getting them access to resources, financial and educational, as we're doing the construction, so we can start to line up the homeowners, potential homeowners, with the opportunities concurrently, rather than finish the home and then go find the buyers and then have them go get the capital, because that's a very timely process.
Yeah, yes, and this project now is consistent and with the work that was done by the task force, the Blight to Betterment Task Force, and also and some of the ideas that we came up around outreach and how we were going to educate the community on what is available. This is a perfect example and a perfect opportunity, I believe, to, if you're going to market the land bank, you're going to market opportunities. If you don't take use this as an opportunity to uplift the land bank and what it can do for the community, then I think that's going to be a real problem for me. So I know it's like you said, a short time frame, but we've got to take the effort to explain to people, because as people watch that work going on, they're going to raise questions. And we want to be able to answer those questions and provide access to the opportunity to be that potential homeowner.
Right on. And having direct outreach into the community is really going to help us with that. And we can, maybe you can give us some guidance on some of our outreach places and some of our materials for that, so we make sure that we're getting, we could always use help on that, frankly, so at the land bank. But and
I look forward to that conversation continuing.
Thank you. And so that's the grant. I would say what's very unique about this particular grant and why the magnitude is fantastic is this is 100% subsidy to rehab these units. That the grant allows all of these federal funds can be used rather than having to pair grants and private capital and land bank money and cash and bootstrap it together. This is a very unique grant, and the fact that we were able to secure it competing against others across the state is I don't want to underestimate that. And I want to thank you guys for your partnership, because, it's not a lot. It's very rare when $1 million grant comes around and you're able to partner and get it so quickly. So thank you.
All righty. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. So now I'm ready to hear from Mr. Alderson.
Hey, good evening, Madam Chairwoman and committee members. So I just wanted to touch on briefly kind of the 4 mental health provisions under this grant award. So the first one would be to help support the Albany Lead initiative and specifically case management capacity for Albany Lead. Currently, the ability to divert kind of mental health, substance use disorder, and poverty-driven contact with law enforcement within the city is kind of hamstrung a little bit by the case management capacity of that initiative, which is Catholic Charities. So they only have 3 case managers at this time, and one was only just recently brought on board. So as that program continues to expand and their referral ability and where they're getting referrals from also expands, there's going to be additional people who need help, and those case managers were really struggling. They had very high caseloads, and we just wanted to, after multiple conversations with them and speaking with the Department of Mental Health, we felt that that would be a good use of funds to kind of seed kind of case management capacity for Catholic Charities for an additional year. The second component of this award and of the proposal was to improve the kind of social worker and peer connections that the Department of Mental Health provides to individuals who are high utilizers of emergency medical services. So for example, these are folks who are living with serious mental illnesses or substance use disorder, and oftentimes, and in some instances, have called emergency departments or have been hospitalized 10 times within a week and are kind of part of this revolving door. So we wanted a way to kind of engage people in a more meaningful way. And the demand for this has certainly, the need for this rather, has increased as a result of the pandemic and kind of cascading effects associated with that. And this is something that has been in the Department of Mental Health's kind of planning for a while now, and we finally found an opportunity to kind of seed this and pilot an initiative with the department and hopefully measure the impacts, A, connecting people with wraparound services that they need, but B, kind of promoting a system that generates cost savings to the system as a whole. And would really be able to engage people in a more meaningful way and build connections through both a social worker as well as somebody with lived experiences. The third portion.
Wait, please, could you just stay right there for a moment? So, Albany County Mental Health, it says Patient Services Coordinating Committee. So that's like an ongoing committee of mental health. Okay.
Yeah, so my understanding is the Patient Services Coordinating Committee has been around since the early to mid 2000s. They've helped over 200 different individuals kind of be connected to wraparound services, but their impact is limited because they don't really have an individual who's dedicated to following up and building relationships with those who kind of need this support. So they're a multi-stakeholder group. They bring a ton of people together and they chat and they figure out a way. They identify people who are high utilizers of emergency medical services, the public safety system, and they try and get them into care that they need and connect them to social services. But they're limited in their impact because there's not dedicated staff solely for.
And so these two new hires, and I see that on here. Okay, so so I imagine this is going to come out in the budget somewhere along the way because these are new hires.
So yes, this would have an impact to the county budget. This is being piloted and will be included with revisions to the 2022 proposed budget at a later point in time. I believe early in December at those public hearings. However, my understanding is these been put in during this kind of grant funded period. The mental health department and others will be seeking other funding sources to continue this project, this pilot, if it is impactful beyond this initial 12-month period, but it is included in the budget as a contract funded line, which means, and new hires would be made aware of this as well, which means that if additional funding wasn't able to be secured by the end of 2022, then those positions would either A, go away, or the Department of Mental Health, if they felt that there was benefit to those positions, would have to consider some type of internal reorganization.
Okay, so right now, so this is for a year, and you'll be looking for more money to ensure their ongoing services because they will become county hires. Is that correct?
For the two staff for the Patient Services Coordinating Committee, yes, they would be housed in the Department of Mental Health. And
they will be serving all of Albany County, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I don't have any other questions on part 2. All right, go ahead.
The third portion of it is an expansion of mental health services to the hill towns. Really, it's to kind of develop specifically in Rensselaerville and Bern to during the pandemic, the sole provider of mental health services, counseling services, retired in that area, and the one medical provider in the Hilltown Healthcare, notified the Department of Mental Health that there's a significant need in that community, and the department has tried to pilot programs out there in the past to limited degrees of success. Ideally, this partnership between the Department of Mental Health would allow an opportunity for those individuals who are suffering from a significant mental illness to be connected directly to the Department of Mental Health, and the Department of Mental Health would occasionally offer, I guess, opportunities to visit patients in person in the hill towns and at that doctor's office itself.
Okay, so this is not for the city, this is for the hill towns.
That's correct. And there are no behavioral health service providers within, I would say, probably a 30-minute drive of some of those residents, if not more.
Okay, so I see that it says equipment purchase and staff travel. So this is for people whom we already have to provide for them to travel to the Hilltown. I'm just trying to get this, you know.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So it's to cover the costs associated with travel out there. The Department of Mental Health operates a mobile treatment, or has a mobile treatment vehicle, so they could treat folks out of that vehicle. However, there's significant cost to driving out there, traveling back and forth. That's a 45-minute trip one way from downtown Albany, if not more. And under this proposal, they'd also explore the possibility of perhaps setting up kind of telemental health pods at various community locations out there, essentially to set up equipment in a private room, computers, to allow people to connect to the Department of Mental Health clinicians.
Okay, so we're going, this money is going to the hill towns, okay? And so and then part 3?
That is part 3.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The fourth part of the plan.
Yes, part 4, yes, sorry.
Would to provide support for the Accord program as the Department of Mental Health, Sheriff's Office, and members of the Legislature continue those discussions.
Okay, so now I thought, okay, so this, I'm just trying to get the order of this, okay, because I thought the Accord program provided for this, okay, and so now we're adding on some more. So there was a comment that was made that the reason why you didn't put any into the city of Albany was because that you gave us the, I'm just going by what you said now, the LEAD. You took the money for the LEAD program, and that was being used for the city of Albany. And so let me just say this. I'm still going to stand by what I said originally. We have a lot of mental health issues going on in the city of Albany. Okay. And the one thing in my expectation that I do have, that there is a balanced delivery of services. So I know how we do, and we try to get on, you know, a particular, you're almost building this the same way you built the, Adam just talked about, okay, we have a lot of houses that we're trying to do something with in the South End. So now we got to you know, a good group of them, so we're pouring our money into there. Okay, I can somewhat understand that, okay? But at the same time too, I'm just gonna say this. If every dollar we get from now on, if we're gonna pour it into the hill towns, we're still going to hell down here in the city of Albany with all that is going on. And I don't want to see my community ignored. I have the responsibility to look after the interests of everybody. And I was all for the Accord program in the hill towns. Have no problem with it. But I just don't, I don't like the way we went after this money and we got this little piece right here. And you said, well, that was for the city. You said that to me. And that rankled me when you said that, that the lead was for us. And that was that. That came out, maybe not you, that maybe didn't come out your mouth, but it came out of somebody's mouth the last time. And so, so we're hurting all over right now as far as mental health services are concerned. And I'm standing by what I'm saying right now, what I said before, and I'm saying it again. I just want a balanced delivery of services.
I 100% agree, and if I may, the money for the Accord initiative, I don't believe it would be intended for the hill towns. It would be intended to expand the scope and jurisdiction served by Accord.
Okay, so now, okay, I'm confused. I thought this was for, so it's changed now? Correct me. I'll take that. I'll take correction. Part where it says the, okay, correct me. I'll be happy to hear that. That what number part 4 is. It says serving LMI clientele to new jurisdictions. Is that right or what? Tell me.
Yeah, so I mean, if Accord is being piloted in the hill towns, then this grant wouldn't be able to supplant that investment that's already been made. This would be above and beyond that initial investment, and I think it's part of a larger conversation as to how the Accord program will be structured in the future, and as it expands, and which municipalities are able to be a part of that initiative.
So the social worker is being hired for mental health, period, to be utilized in the mental health services that they provide throughout the county. Is that correct? I'm just trying to get this straight in my head.
So if you're referring to item number 2.
I'm referring to item number 4 right now.
Okay.
Where it says part 4.
Gotcha.
We're on 4, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, there's a social worker with number 2, and I was just gonna make the point that that item, which is the single largest component of the mental health element of this grant, serves a population, and I just this is purely educational, but serves a population that is predominantly located in the city, being the high utilizers. Now, the whole point is we want to address that. We want to get away from having high utilizers by helping them and getting them to not be high utilizers anymore by offering them the assistance that they need. But I just wanted to clarify that is, while it is countywide in its overall umbrella, it will predominantly benefit the city of Albany. I believe Mr. Peter had a comment, and I didn't want to cut him off though.
No, if you've answered the chairwoman's question, and if Mr. Alderson answered the chairwoman's question, I was only, I was coming back to Mr. Alderson's point about the future expansion of Accord. But if the chairwoman is satisfied, I don't need to speak.
I believe you're on mute, Madam Chair. I'm not sure if you're speaking.
Oh, sorry. So part 4, I just want to, part 4, it says response to new jurisdictions serving LMI clientele. What does that mean?
So all of this CDBG funding has to benefit either specifically for mental health services. All the kind of the crux here and the pinch point here is that any of the mental health services provided have to benefit low to moderate income individuals. So that, I mean, to
covers
expansion
everybody.
of jurisdictions, there's a fairly limited number of jurisdictions within the county that would quote unquote, from a geographic standpoint, qualify as having a high enough percentage of low to moderate income individuals where it would be reasonable or feasible to expand the service. Including the city of Albany, including the city of Waterville, including the city of Cohoes. I can't speak to where Accord will be expanded to because I'm just not familiar with it, but I know they desire to expand the program. And
Madam Chair, this is Mike. I can speak to how it would be expanded if you'd like me to.
Yeah, I want somebody to, because was this just for Accord?
Number 4 is just for Accord, correct? It's for the expansion of Accord to the population in the poverty level that was just described. Because it's already existing in the hill towns for a population that it also falls into that category. It can't be expanded into where it already exists. So we would have to expand into the city of Albany, Cohoes, Waterville, etc. So as we described on the call with you today, we have a framework that's in place for each municipality that would like to opt into the program to do so. The county is only providing the social work background to the program. So it's the response now, fortunately, obviously for the hill towns, the sheriff is the law enforcement officer. So it was a match that worked well. But for all the other jurisdictions that have their own law enforcement and their own ambulance service, et cetera, they're going to have to go through a process, and that's more complicated than it seems, because you have to figure out through how they dispatch and all those things, how to matriculate into the system. So for those locations that choose to opt into the program and then set a schedule to do so, we will provide the social work background to do that, to place the individuals in the ambulance responses in those jurisdictions so that they get coverage under Accord. But they're going to have to choose to do that. And they're going to have to opt into the program. Now, I haven't heard of a municipality, and I've spoken to most, and there's some legislators, I believe Mr. Peter has also spoken to some, that have said no, but all of them are going to be on a different schedule based on what they think that they can handle. And some of them, fortunately, in Albany County will luck out because there's a couple of municipalities that actually have shared services. So they do different arrangements for ambulance dispatch together. So we'll get 2 for 1, so to speak, for some municipalities. But this money that you're seeing here is to create the groundwork for the expansion to those places.
So we're saying right now, the services that are being provided by Accord is to provide a social worker or mental health worker for with law enforcement.
No, specifically, it's actually for ambulances. So at dispatch.
For ambulances?
Yes, correct. So it places a mental health individual into the ambulance dispatch. So it doesn't, and Mr. Peter knows this better than I, but basically by placing in a mental health individual at dispatch in what's sent out to a call, it prevents the use of police for a non-necessary call and frees them up to do police work. Not to mention, obviously, for somebody who's going through a mental health crisis, sending a mental health individual out to that location is a much better response overall. It decreases the probability of a negative interaction and so on and so forth. So, and I think this isn't, Accord didn't provide mental health services out to the hill towns. It simply placed mental health services into 911 calls that came in that were identified at the point of dispatch as having a mental health, an appropriate mental health reason to dispatch that team of individuals.
Mm. Well, guess what? I guess I'm somebody that's not really sure on how a court works. And I don't have a problem in saying that, okay? Because I honestly thought it had something to do with the sheriff's department. And
It does, because the sheriff does dispatch an ambulance for the hill towns.
And so this
sheriff is-
was, okay,
Go
again, I'm not gonna change what I just said. I don't understand how a court works. I don't. Okay, and that's something I had just had to come up to speed on, period.
But we're more than willing to go over it again whenever you'd like.
Mr. Bergdorf.
Listening to all this has been enlightening, because I think I now understand why it's happening in the hill towns, is because the sheriff's office controls the ambulances, he controls the dispatchers,
That is
and
correct.
he would actually have the social workers, and the areas where he's responding may be more economically homogeneous than other places. But sort of what bothers me, and I can't get away from this discussion without mentioning it, you know, if the whole purpose of the Accord program is to prevent potential conflict between law enforcement and mentally ill people, there is just as much need for that in the town of Colony, regardless of what the economic census tracts show. And, you know, I don't know how you morph these county programs to serve the other 250,000 people in Albany County who don't fit into the Accord parameters that you have just discussed.
It's a very good question, Mr. Bergdorf. I mean, honestly, we couldn't agree more. This is simply for those areas that qualify. We certainly have every intention over time of expanding it to serve everybody, but this is simply money that was available to help with that cost.
But I couldn't let the discussion go on without saying, if there's a mental health situation 5 houses from me, that could potentially go awry, and there could be a bad police response. It should, those sorts of public health and safety decisions should not be contingent upon the economics of the street or the census tract. So I would hope, as you expand this, and as much as I agree with Wanda that there are very special needs and concerns in the city of Albany, that, you know, I live in a community of 85,000 people, and Mark lives in a community of how many people, Mark?
36,000.
36,000, and there are people who live in Bethlehem who may be another 35,000 people. So, you know, you've got another 175,000 people out there who have as much need of these services. I don't know how to integrate them into your program, but it can't be left unsaid that they are not as entitled to the county services as the people who fit the parameters that work for the money that's available today.
And so I just want to add that, Mike, let's not forget Dante Ivy, who had a mental health issue. And he was the one who was, he was killed by the Albany police. So, you know, that still that resonates with me. And it didn't start with him. Didn't start with him. We haven't forgot the man that was killed by the police on Clinton Avenue years ago. So it's something that, again, I'm saying is this, it's needed all over. We just can't, we got to be real careful, about this. I would love to see a balanced delivery of services. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Madam Chair,
I see your hand up, Matt.
thank you. Just a couple, just quick things. Mr. Burdorf, I completely agree. And listen, Accord started in the pilot program just because there has to be intermunicipal agreements where specifically, so when dispatch is not controlled by the county, but we have to make sure that dispatch is following Accord procedures, there has to be an intermunicipal agreement. When EMT services are going to be provided by the locality, not the sheriff, because of a lack of agreement there, or because of union agreements, there has to be additional intermunicipal agreements. Same with the city of Albany. There has to be training and making sure of that stuff. The pilot program in the hill towns was done simply because all those services lined up because they were being done by the county already. To your point, sorry, but to your
I agree
point,
with you completely. I understand that and I support it.
And just to let you know, the county executive's office, Office of Mental Health, Sheriff's Office, everyone involved wants to see this countywide, regardless of it wants it countywide because, to your point, mental illness doesn't know income. Mental illness does not know geographic barriers. It's across the county and it needs to be handled in a professional manner. It's just the agreements have to come out, and the city of Albany is going to be, I'm sure, including any expansion. The town of Colony, as long as it's accepted parameters, town of Gilderlin, everyone would be including an expansion. Just this CDBG money is very specific that it has to be on an economic basis, which doesn't mean that it can't be, it's offsetting what would be a county expansion everywhere else.
That's
So
exactly right.
it's just, did I say that right, Mr. McLaughlin?
Yeah, this is simply, we're debating money that we're using to offset what will eventually be a county cost. But I assume everyone wants us to,
countywide cost.
Countywide cost, right. I'm assuming everybody's in favor of pulling money into the county that we would otherwise not have access to. That's simply what this is. So number 4 is simply, okay, we have an opportunity here, along with the other opportunities that we've discussed, to offset a cost, because we know that the pilot program has been going well. The pilot program was piloted by the legislature. We pulled in Department of Mental Health for their expertise. It's going well. So we know that it's going to go countywide for that reason. So there's no reason why we shouldn't make sure that we
I don't think that,
that
Mike,
cost as much as possible.
let me say this. I don't think that I know we're going to accept this money. That's not the point. This is the opportunity now for legislators to be able to speak about, issues that concern, the whole county. Okay. And when you put in for this, okay, you narrowed your view. But the one thing that we do know is that we do have an extreme need for mental health services. No, that's not lost on anybody at all. Okay. So your point, I have some additional points to what you're saying. Okay. So that's not lost on any of us. All right. So now, if there are no other questions, I'll call for a motion.
Motion.
I got a motion
Second.
from Mr. O'Brien, and I couldn't see the second.
Second from
I got a second from Mr. Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now that was on number. That's not the last one. That was on 19 or 20. That was on 19. Is that correct? Okay,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
we have 20 left. Okay.
Yes. Item 20 is authorizing an agreement with the Albany County Land Bank Corporation regarding the New York State Homes and Community Renewal to receive community development block grant monies.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Adam had to go. I told him I could cover this because it's pretty straightforward. The one we just voted on was money flowing from the county, from the state to the county. This is a sub-agreement for the land bank portion to allow the land bank to access those funds in a reimbursement manner. Happy to answer any questions. I think we covered most of them on the previous one, but if there are, I'm here.
Okay, if there are no questions,
Make a motion.
I got a motion from Mr. O'Brien and a second. And I got a second from Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. I want to thank everybody. And I just want to wish everybody, we're going to see each other, I think, before Thanksgiving. Isn't that right?
Yes,
23rd,
next,
something. Okay.
next
For those
Tuesday.
of you that we don't see, I just want to wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. And as we go into the holidays, just remember those that many of us have lost. I've lost 2 people just this week so far, and somebody today. So I just want to just let everyone know that everything that we do is, we don't want it to be lopsided. And I do agree with you, Mr. Bergdorf, you have issues, mental health issues affect all of us. And this pandemic has increased certain issues that are going on with everybody. So we're not trying to leave anybody out.
I understand that.
Yeah. Oh, I just want you to know I'm agreeing with you. That's all I'm
I
saying.
appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Okay. And so I really just want everybody to know I try to do the best job that I can to ensure that everybody is served. And I don't care if you're Black, white, I don't care if you live in the suburbs. I represent people that are in $1 million homes in my majority minority district. I still represent those people too. So I try my best to look after the needs for everybody. So I just want to, for those of you that I won't see, I just want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving and try to enjoy your family as much as you can, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get an opportunity to see my grandkids, who I have not seen in quite some time. So I'll call for a motion now to adjourn if there are no further questions.
Motion.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Luke, and thank you for Mr. Alderson for coming on and explaining, what was going on. Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.